Hello again. After the massacre of the little girls in Southport, feelings were running very high, as well they might have been. There was a spontaneous outpouring of anger and indignation, much of which related to both immigration and Islam. This was, of course, because the suspect arrested for the offences was both a Muslim and also from an immigrant family. It is, of course, plainly and rightly illegal to try and set fire to buildings or to throw bricks at the police and so on. I don't think that anybody convicted of such offences can really complain. If I heave half a brick at the nearest policeman, I'm bound to end up in a cell. However, suppose that I am in a crowd of people and somebody else throws a brick at a policeman. Should I be sent to prison for his actions? This seems to many of us manifestly unjust, and yet it has in the last 6 months or so become quite accepted by means of people being charged with violent disorder. 2 men have been on remand in prison for the last 4 months, and they were yesterday jailed for 21 months each. There had been a disorderly protest in early August outside a hotel in Staffordshire which housed asylum seekers. One of the men had waved his arms in the air, and both of them had laughed when a firework went off. One of the men shouted that he didn't want to pay for the asylum seekers being put up in the hotel. All this seems pretty tame stuff, and in the usual way of things I doubt that the police and courts would even have been involved. However, after the Prime Minister and various police chiefs and the Home Secretary had all said that people present at such protests could expect to go to prison, a number of people like these men, who did nothing more serious than laugh at fireworks or wave their arms in the air, have indeed found themselves being sent to prison for years. To my mind, this is quite shocking, as they are being punished not for what they themselves did, but for the actions of others, and also because politicians demanded vengeance and wanted people to be sent to prison. In the description to this video I give a link to a news report about this case. Here are 2 men who have essentially had their lives wrecked by politicians and police officers who have interfered in the usual judicial process. Let me be very clear about what I am saying. The law comes down very heavily indeed on people who try to set fire to buildings, and also those who incite others to do so. This has been the case for centuries, and rightly so. Until last summer, though, the law equally tended to disregard those who were merely part of a crowd, some of whose members were being violent. Should we be sent to prison for laughing when a firework goes off? Or for waving our arms in the air? Or indeed for standing next to men who are committing crimes? Most of us would say no, regardless of the political nature of that crowd. The idea of sending people to prison for actions which they could not possibly have known at the time even constituted criminal offences is abhorrent to any fair-minded person, and the fact that so many people fail to see this now is an indication of just how this country has changed, and not for the better, since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister.